Welcome to the debate. I would like to call my wonderful panelists on stage. So please join me here, Clara, Catarina, Gala, and Eytan. And as you probably might have noticed already, I did not bring my opera voice with me tonight. And also the mics have some issues from time to time. So whenever you have difficulties with understanding us, please let us know. But also please do it kindly. Yeah, so I was informed that, as you might know, there's a tradition of serving rum at Critics Week. However, there's no rum tonight. I was just informed that there's no rum. But I came prepared, since rum is not my cup of tea. I already did something because I was planning not to drink rum. So I brought an alternative to the table, which is here. It's a German drink called Mexicana. And it contributes to the title of the evening, Hard, Fast and Beautiful. And maybe it also brings the topic of exotism to the table we might touch upon later. Yeah, I will do a short and brief introduction of my wonderful panelist guests. And then we start with the debate. Give me a second. So next to me is Eytan Ipeker. Eytan is a Berlin-based editor and partly filmmaker and producer. And he's well known for his editing work of Burning Days, a film directed by Eytan Ipeker. And Eytan, you also did a film by yourself, a feature film, The Pageant, 2020. And Eytan also produced a wonderful film, Album, which you might know from 2016. And so Eytan is also part of the Editors Association of Germany and the Film Editors Society of Turkey. And I'm very happy that you're here, Eytan. Yeah, you need to turn on.
Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Next to Eytan, we have Catarina Vasconcelos. Catarina is a Portuguese filmmaker, and her short film Metaphor or Sadness Inside Out premiered at Cinema Durell, where it won the Best Short Film prize. And you might know her feature film, The Metamorphosis of Birds, which premiered in the Encounters section at Berlinale 2020, and it won there the Fepreschke Prize. And a couple of other prizes later came. And now she's back in Berlin with her wonderful film, Nocturne for a Forest. Welcome, Catarina. Next to is it on? So, yeah. Next to Catarina is Clara Winter. Clara studied fine arts at the Kunsthochschule Kassel. And they are practice engaged within leftist subcultures while still open for the infiltration of neoliberal institutions. I think I'm back. I think I'll take another one. So Clara collaborates a lot with Miel Ferraes. And together they mixing research, documentation, and performances. They deal with power dynamics and historical hierarchies while trying not to lose the focus on the power of the image itself and the logistics behind the creation. Their work has been influenced and expanded by anti-racist, trans, and decolonial struggles that cross the communities they are part of and collaborate with. And they made a wonderful short film. Wir sprechen hier immer noch Deutsch. Is that the title? Yeah. Wir sprechen heute noch Deutsch. And they won the German Short Film Award for Experimental Film. Thank you for being here, Clara. And next to Clara is Gala Hernández López. Gala is an artist, filmmaker, and researcher whose interdisciplinary work spans docufiction, films, video installation, and performances. And Gala works on new modes of subjectivation, specifically produced by computational digital capitalism. Gala, you made 2 wonderful short films, and your work has been shown at Berlinale, Doc Leipzig, Cinema Durell, and many other festivals. And your recent film is also here at Forum, right? Forum Expanded. Maybe you can help me with the title again.
Hi, I lost my voice in the festival, so I'm sorry. The title is For Here Am I Sitting in a Tin Can Far Above the World.
Thank
Very
you.
long title.
Yeah. Welcome, Gala.
Thanks.
So before we start with like highly intellectual topics, I would ask you to maybe share your viewing expressions. I'm very curious about what you think about the program, and maybe you can also shortly share a bit about what you felt and thought while you were sitting here, and I'll probably watch the program again. Eytan, maybe you start.
Yes. Yeah, first of all, I can say that it's well, I watched the films before, of course, through the links, but definitely, I mean, I'm always amazed by this. It is completely different experience to watch with an audience. I mean, I felt all the films were like very had this element of humor in them. I mean, I'm not a programmer, so I cannot talk with them about like this thematic kind of intellectual kind of way, but I thought especially about the use of sound was very interesting. I was thinking a lot, especially I mean, because I've watched them a few times now, especially with the wiki writers. I have questions as to how the production happens with this kind of semi-improvised and with the use of sound, and how much on the editing table things were decided. So I had more like I guess, yeah, aesthetic kind of I took aesthetic inspirations from all of them, so I quite enjoyed them. Thank you for the work.
Yeah, we can do a round, and whenever you feel like reacting to each other, please also do it. I don't have to be the one who's distributing the questions, but let's do a round with viewing impressions.
Yeah, no. No, I think it's really nice that you've picked up on humor, because I actually think it's what kind of guides. There's this humor thing, very subtle, but then when we finish with your film, which is the humor goes to another level now, this punk rock level of humor, which then I was thinking, how do we speak about things that are very difficult to speak of sometimes? There's this thing in cinema many times now that when you want to speak a very, very, very hard subject, you make the film very hard. And then it looks just... This is not like it is, actually. It looks funny and weird, and it's not at all like reality is. So I was thinking, especially now with this last film, that sometimes we need to go the other way around. We need to make it humor to speak about things which are extremely hard and delicate. How do we speak about colonialism? How do we speak about feminism? How do we speak about the Me Too movement? So I was thinking that all of these, they kind of connected somehow through this humor, and saying things that some other way would be quite difficult to say them. So I think it's like a sort of a weapon, and because your film starts as well with this thing of shooting, so I pretty much thought about this humor like something that connects pretty much these three films in a very not subtle way at all, very direct way. So it was something for me that was quite special, just to tackle this first thing of humor. Yeah. which is something that I wasn't used to, me myself, coming from my last film, that I thought it was quite humorous, but maybe people tell me no. So then for me it was very nice to play now with humor, to have this possibility of playing with it was just like, oh wow, we can use it in a way that it can be a tender humor as well. I don't know if this makes sense.
I'm just really bad at not trying to work with humor, but it's also always the problem of what is actually funny and how long is it funny, and like I often do jokes that then, I mean, some I can enjoy for a long time and some I do regret, and that always makes then movies also less long lasting and sometimes also problematic. But I think it's worth trying. I did enjoy how your movie also worked with text and subtitles, because I also thought of doing subtitles first, of like having subtitles that don't really connect to what text you have in the image or something. So I do really like thinking about translation and what gets lost there. And
yeah, but you do have this in your film, no? This dubbing thing. The dubbing
but I
of
do
the
dubbing in the end and subtitle what is
Yeah,
dubbed, but like not so much writing something there that doesn't exist. I once saw a movie that was really nice, besides of the ones where I forgot to something. Yeah, but I mean, obviously everything is woven really, really nicely together. How I think we can, like the movies are so nicely put together in how many overlapping fields they have. I think we can dive into the talks about why and what it is, or like the cowboy genre and the form.
I hope I can produce some sounds. Yeah, I was impressed by. I also watched the film before today, of course, but I was impressed now again, watching them again, by how well they dialogue in so many ways. So I think it's a super well curated program. Congratulations. And I think not only because of the humor, which I think, of course, it's pretty obvious, but also I was thinking, like they both try to like critically re-examine history, and kind of doing this like critically deconstructing the hegemonic narratives of history, whatever. But also what I find even more interesting, I think they also propose new ways of constructing the future, or how the future could look like, in two different ways, which are not the same, but also very interesting how they could dialogue. I think in your case is through this kind of eco-feminist animism, that you're proposing with these plans. And in your film, I was very struck by, I was thinking just now, this critique that, this group of people trying to hound a family, right? And the family as an institution of oppression historically as well, like the family as, the base of patriarchy. But at the same time, these three guys, girls, people, they are a family as well, connected through the making of the film. And I was very touched by, because you could really feel that it's just three friends, also like just enjoying the trip through, and like while making the film, right? So this kind of like, this way of building links and choosing your own family, in a way, I think it's very beautiful.
Catarina, you wanted to say something?
No, I just answering this thing that Gala just said, which I thought is very important, which is, I think one thing that I struggle a lot is that we learn history, at least in Portugal, through books when we are in school. No, so we have a book that says how history was. So, and then the Portuguese went there, and then we did this, and then we discovered that. So all of these very horrible things that are still not changed that much, actually, in the way we are taught history in school. So what I think becomes very interesting as well, and seeing these three films, and the first one as well, it's how do we tell other points of view of history as well? What are the other points of view that exist that can actually bring us new approaches towards history? If we don't have those, what history are we actually talking about? What's this big history with a big H that we are talking about. Who wrote this? Who made this? So these other voices, the three friends, the women that died and now need to speak like plants, the two women in Pistoleras, that suddenly their weapons is their body, you know? So for me there was as well this thing in the program of like, how do we shift? How can we shift the history? Not change history, but retell history. How do we look at history? So I think that was something as well in your film as well, with this thing of Wikipedia that we trust blindly many times. And so I thought that was something as well that was there very, very strongly.
I was going to say, yeah, also this Wikipedia thing was also very interesting for me, and especially the scene where you have the cutout guy in the air, and then he's also cannot find the reference, and then he finds a shoe, and the film is called Wiki Riders. I'm just thinking that it's just not this travel in U.S.-Mexican border, but also like kind of, I don't know if this was intended as such, but at least it made me think about like kind of trying to navigate in this, well, like in kind of this where you have bits of information and you're not sure which one, and they have this encounter with this Wikipedia guy, and just like the lack of sort of this information that's like everyone agrees upon, and this trying to navigate in this world. I was thinking a lot about that, but I still have this question about how much you wrote the film as you were dubbing the characters, because I kind of woke up to this only now, that this is like a lot of it is like also kind of using this kind of material and then playing from it and constructing a narrative, or I may be wrong. You can tell us maybe.
I mean, so it is a movie by Miel and Megan and me, but I think like I'm a bit responsible for the last editing version of this movie, and we did like several outcomes of it. Like Megan doesn't feel like a director for this movie, but was part of like writing the script and stuff. And we did this road trip while already researching the family and kind of passing by different locations that we knew that they were also part of, but it was a bit random. And then afterwards we wrote the script based on the scenes we had and like on the dubbing, more like the content, and then like the dubbing possibilities and dubbing it. And that was a bit the set out, and that's why it took so long. But yeah, of course the whole travel is a bit like the research itself. But the problem was we had first found an article about this family a bit by coincidence that had a lot of content and was actually showing a lot of the dark sides of their history, and this article disappeared, and that's how we ended up also working with different language translations also of Wikipedia. I mean also, of course, books and relations, but we were also thinking about this concept of Wikipedia generation, of like people that know a little bit about everything, like kind of like jumpy knowledge, and also thinking about how this is maybe not only like a deficit of like this is not like knowledge that's lacking to go like deeper and deeper, but maybe the possibility of maybe a new generation to think more relational. And like knowing a bit about everything and like how things relate to each other, maybe that's like a bit like a new kind of brain format people move towards. And also thinking about like collage and thought collages, and there has been like a lot of criticism on like nothing really like new and genuine, like outstanding being made those days anymore, like as in music or whatever, like Mark Fisher criticism of it. And I do feel, I do find it very interesting to look at collages, not at just like things put next to each other, but maybe putting things more into relation and like creating webs that like include the in-between spaces, the non-spaces, that like maybe also the binary size thinking, and work with the non-space that is also a space of a carpet. Also that's like going very far, but
And something that connects all the three films together is also the act of seeing. For example, in Pistoleras you have these mirrors, and I think it's goes very well with the other films because the mirrors reflect, and their films also reflect on these topics we were already speaking about. For example, the history of art, the genre, but also they are self-reflective, self-reflexive, and so I think this is something that connects all of these three films. And then there's also the aspect of power structures of seeing. I mean, Catarina, in your film, the women are forbidden to see inside the convent, and you have the connection between your film and Pistoleras, like the cutting out of in Pistoleras is the trousers, and in your film it's the breast. That something is cut out maybe in order to not see it in the first place, or like the idea of the power of something that is seen or not seen. Maybe you won't comment on it.
Yeah, sorry, we had a bit of a problem
of
here,
course,
but yeah,
of course.
we are completely prepared now. Yeah, so I was invited to make this residency in Busaco, which is this center of Portugal, and there's this convent there. I used to go there when I was very little, and I thought it was very beautiful. And now coming there, it was just a 3 days thing, residency, really small. And then I started to understand that these monks, they made this convent, and they planted everything, like all of these trees. But then they needed to make the wall around all of this to say, so this is ours. So, and of course, when I was young, I just thought that this was all brilliant and great. And I was very shocked when I saw this plaque that is in one of the entrances of the wall. It is not like it is in the film, of course. This is my synopsis of the plaque. But it says pretty much this, that women are not allowed, otherwise they will be excommunicated. You know this word. Yes, they will go out of the church and they will burn in hell, these kind of things, yes. Very graphic. And so for me, in that moment, there was something very, very strong. And then they told me about this painting of Josefa Dobic. Josefa Dobic is a very, very special creature in the art scene in Portugal. She was a woman painter, and she actually she was providing for her family. And in a country as Portugal, where we have zero art history, let's face it, we are not a very good country with art. We fight a lot for it, but it's still not good enough. But we are here. We are here. So so Josefa Dobic was actually very impressive. She was extraordinary. So these monks asked her to make this painting. And for me, in that moment, was just like, is it just me who thinks this is crazy? Women cannot enter, but there's a woman painter painting a painting of a woman that is naked. This is, oh my God, am I the only one? And then, on 2014, and this painting was the most expensive thing that existed in this convent. And in 2014, the painting burned. It actually burned. Nothing else burned in the convent, just the painting. Very suspicious. So and then I was like, of course, this is the revenge of the souls. my explanation for this. So there was this. Still, no one knows what happened to the painting. For sure, I think that the most probable thing is that it was stolen and someone faked a fire of the painting. But but what was really interested for me, and I was really interested in, was the fact that this Sagrada Familia, the Virgin Mary with the breasts, there was the only representation of a woman, of a naked woman in the convent. So this was something very, for me, very special. And so there was this thing of hiding, of women hiding in between, behind the walls, and then as well in these, and then making this sort of mastectomy in the painting as well, playing with that. That for me was women having as well access to painting their own bodies. There's something in the, I'll just shut up, but there's something very interesting in the history of painting that most self-portraits are made by women in the history of painting. And it's not because we are narcissistic. It's because women weren't allowed to paint naked people. They weren't allowed. So they only had themselves to paint. So I can imagine as well that Josefa used her own breast to paint herself. I don't know. So there was all of these things that I was thinking of in the relationship with the body that for sure connects with Pistoleras in the beginning when they grab the body. And I don't know. I'm sorry, Amos. I don't know if I went all over this. Can you a question? But yeah.
No, thank you. I mean, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
And Clara, what do you think about the topic of seeing in your film? Because the topic of seeing, like to see the bigger picture, because it's not only a Western or maybe also a road movie, but it's also maybe a detective film. And it's all about seeing the bigger picture and understanding something that this group is searching for. And you have these wonderful episodes where, for example, there's a sign, and then, still maybe something's coming up very soon. No? And you already talked about a bit about this in between and the images that and the knowledge that is missing. Maybe you can connect it a bit.
Yeah, so the big problem is that this talk is going to be like later online. And so like working with power structures and like getting to know people.
You can cut everything out.
I can cut
everything out.
No, but there's like, so now normally I would always tell like all the cool gossip that is behind that movie and all the kind of things that are adventurous and more fun. But it is maybe also interesting to think about what it can do without all of this. No, I mean, you know, we looked at those families, and there's just really like a handful of families in Mexico that did influence the whole like history in the last 200 years. And what Miel said, like as someone from Mexico, is that normally this kind of 1% of really, really ruling class people are not so often in your, you don't so often have like the contact to, and we ended up in a really weird situation building up contact to like someone, and that really motivated us like going further. But I guess we were really focused on looking at this kind of origin of a lot of problems that still exist or that are there, and like a history of people that are related to people coming from Spain and that are like white Mexicans and are still in power. And this, but yeah, of course, it is also a weird movie still to watch because it's like us three people that are also. There is a huge lack in the movie also of other voices. So yeah, I guess it's there, and it's nice that it has humor, but like I feel also like some own cringe about the movie itself, and kind of like a calling for doing different kind of projects or going beyond the humor or taking this as a starting point to go somewhere else. Like it feels really like this kind of checking out base ground on some structural problems.
Yeah. And how do you discuss the topics like this very heavy topics like colonialism in terms of humor? For example, with Miguel and Miel, is it something you are constantly trying to communicate about? But for example, you have this scene with the beer, and then you buy this beer, and it's like a commercialization of indigenous life, for example, or you have this topic with Karl May. You touch upon like very funnily, like okay, we are Saxon and we're making a Western here in Mexico, but actually it's like a huge discourse, of course, very loaded, and of course people are very pissed about these topics as well. And how do you check with each other? Is this the right part to do it again, another joke? And like, you know.
I think we kind of did feel in the end that it was not the right way to do things. Like we started doing a Western because Megan was writing a text, and Megan is a writer and had like written a really nice text about this kind of like digital cowboys and like playing with the word to shoot and making movies. And that's how it all came from. The same thing also with the beer. It was like a joke that came up in between friends and then made it into the script. And beer is actually also like a colonial, not just like a colonial beverage, but also a beverage that was imposed by telling wrong stories about, like, for example, pulque. It's like pre-Hispanic agave drink that's fermented and has like some alcohol. Like they were like beer brewers would spread stories about pulque containing like some cow shit or something. And we even met friends that were still believing those stories, like from like their grandmothers and stuff. So kind of like devaluing. So yeah, I think there's just like so much, like we do reflect a lot, but like we also still drink beer and.
And the topic of knowledge production and like digital works. Maybe Gala, you have to add some thoughts about it because you work a lot with the digital realm and like where it might lead us in the future and how real persons relate to avatars and how knowledge is also created and distributed. What were your thoughts on this Wikipedia thing? Maybe you can elaborate a bit about it.
Yeah. Well, I was very curious about the title of the film and how this whole Wikipedia idea came to exist. I see Wikipedia as a kind of a form of collective intelligence that could, at some point, help reaching some kind of epistemic justice, that everybody could. There is a lot of initiatives of activists and, like, I don't know, I think of one collective in particular in France called Noircir Wikipedia, like, I don't know how to translate this, like blacking Wikipedia, or like, that it's basically just creating Wikipedia pages about the history of Africa and like its peoples, and I also thought at some point that in your film you were quite critical with Wikipedia as well, as some form of epistemic violence or something. I was curious about what is exactly their view on Wikipedia as a tool, as a revolutionary tool, or as a revolutionary maybe.
I mean, I think we do heighten it because we do cherish it a lot. But there was also this thing like with the. We suspect that it was that person that we were following actually changing the Wikipedia of the family because it had a lot on his own biography.
This is real?
No.
Okay, sorry. No, I was just like, what?
It's really complicated to talk about the real and the unreal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do believe a lot in the possibilities to add things to Wikipedia, but also it was just such a we also did see all those things disappear that were like once important because like the people that it is a question of power and who adds the Wikipedia, and there is like all this problems with whatever being too many men or white men editing Wikipedia, and so therefore I think it is maybe looking more democratic than it actually is, and so therefore it does need a lot of work to get to this utopia. And then in the end, if you look at the edit histories, I mean, I also have not deeply studied it, but it's really crazy how some people just delete like 7,000 characters, and then the bot puts it back, but then like delete a little bit, and so just if you're really relentless, you can really just create your reality like to a certain extent. And then the more common sense is always to delete more and then rather not have so much information there. So cross-reading languages is really helpful also. But yeah.
I by the way, I really like this kind of there was a suspicious kind of look. I think maybe you were referring to that about this Wikipedia. And I was thinking a lot how it replaced, when we were a kid, we had an encyclopedia and it had everything there and it was the truth, kind of like what you were saying. And then with the internet, everything kind of like there was no centralized information. And now Wikipedia is like kind of like this new kind of encyclopedia, which is also kind of dangerous and something to be suspicious of. And then and there was also this talk about different languages, and you go to the edit history and all this kind of discussions and like things that are out, not in the mainstream, that can be visible only through that. And of course, who edits and who puts the time to edit. I mean, I'm not putting any time to edit, so I'm just basically reading who's the latest winner in the battle of the editing Wikipedia. So I quite enjoyed that there was this kind of like trusting, not trusting, who's editing. This was interesting, I think, in the film.
I was sorry, my voice is really bad. I was also concerning this digital topic. I was also thinking something in common that both your films have is that they start with very clear references to the history of art and the history of cinema, like your film with this still life that refers to a very classical historical painting genre, to then like bring the film somewhere else, and your film with like this black and white also that is unnecessary, but you put it for a reason. And I was thinking, why would you turn the digital images into black and white? Maybe it's to refer to the history of cinema, like black and white also being, Western, or like old movies were in black and white, and then also bringing the film somewhere else. Like this starting point being very, let's say, 20th century, and then bringing it to the 21st through the digital, actually.
Yeah, I just remember that I never wanted to do black and white movies, and then for some reason I found some excuse, but then again I shut this in 2018. I think it was mainly that it did help to bring together the content, like to reduce the content of the imagery a bit and make it like easier to control, especially in the United States where there's so many colors. And then to make the digital even like more visible in the black and white. But what the digital, we started this like interesting discussion before coming here with, I don't know, I did also write my my thesis about the movie, which then in all the footnotes and subtitles has like the more also like books and actual Wikipedia quotes. And then I finally figured out 2016, because when I saw the petrol station sign, it started like as a joke, but then it became somehow my own conspiracy theory that I had to solve of like what 2016 was, and so like of course one big thing was also like the election of Trump in 2016, and with this new form of democracy starting, or maybe also this kind of like the end of history, really like another step to it arriving by how the digital changes our way of informing and changes like voting and the possibility to manipulate people, which then was like a new form of politics, and also with Brexit and stuff. And so then it was really like 2016 Trump election and maybe an end to democracy as we know it because of more information, because of like the digital possibilities. I'm very bad digital vocabulary person.
I think there's a sentence in your film that for me really it's very beautiful, and it kind of encapsulates the whole film, which is we have to take care of the ghosts, the unborn ghosts, and the dead ghosts. And for me, this sentence really it's a embryo of the film, because it is about this, all of the fears, all the ones. How can we preserve the world from what it has been? How can we will always have ghosts around us. 2016, yes, that's a big ghost.
It's a Derrida quote. It's not from me.
Yeah, no, but it's the guy that says this in this moment. So it's quite so I think this sentence that you have it's kind of a leitmotif for the whole film, that we kind of after this sentence, I don't know, after this I'm always seeing the film from this perspective, chasing ghosts.
But also the ghost could be also like the history of cinema. This is like, you know, like the history of cinema made by men in film, very expensive, and now thanks to the digital camera, you can make a film very cheap, you know, referencing these codes and deconstructing them, you know,
and having a Western.
But owning the means of production, you know, like now is cheaper with digital cameras, right? So we can rewrite.
Why did you choose to make a Western?
I didn't.
I'm
not.
Sorry.
I'm not the filmmaker of the first film.
I was going to say the black and white and the yes, the black and white and the Western thing and the road film kind of aspect of it, and the music also made me think a bit of this some early Jarmusch films, and it just brought me to that a little bit. I don't know if this was like a thing for you, and also about this the thing you referred about this ghost from the past. I thought this was kind of like made me think a lot about the connection between the two films. I think it's not, I think, accidental that you picked up on this aspect, because they are very connected with the ghosts of the past and doing justice. I thought this was interesting. Well, observation. Yes.
Natalia, come.
Yes.
No, but Natalia, you...
Natalia? Oh, mine neither. It does. You want to add something?
Maybe Natalia needs to come here.
You have to join us instead.
Natalia, you can sit.
Yes.
It's fine. I mean, it's the panel talk. But I just wanted to answer your question.
This is very interesting.
Why did I make a Western? Does it work now? Yeah, it does. I wanted to make a film about the word pistoleras, because I know, at least I don't know if you had heard it before, but like in the Spanish I know it as the triple meaning of being the person that shoots, but also the holster where the pistol is, but it can also, or at least in like a post-feminist media language, it was appropriated for selling women products against the problem zone, which is like the fat on your legs. And so I wanted to make a film where a person would shoot against their own mirror image with their fat. And so I thought, I don't know, I wanted to reappropriate also the Western themes, yeah. and it's a homage to Bali export too. So yeah.
Thank you.
Since we started to speak about Western, I mean, Western is a genre that, of course, was invented for cinema, and a lot of people enjoy it very much. But still, it is a propaganda tool. Cinema is taking part in like having this propaganda about the genocide of the indigenous people in Northern and Southern America. And there's a great film, Los Colonos, recently shown here in Germany and also in this cinema, which is very critical about that. But it does it in a very harsh way, very beautiful also, but in a harsh way. And you, Clara, you did it with another approach. I mean, you certainly are aware of the problematics of Western, but you choose to subversive with another approach. Maybe you can speak about a bit more how you see the genre in general, and yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm not really good like in genre studies. It was more like a personal thing of like I lived for a pretty long time in Mexico, and then I just started to a bit pick on like cool boots and stuff, and like of course also like in a kind of like gender experiment and like those kind of like I just like was very much in love with like a very simple exotic image of a kind of cowboyism and taking that on, and then sooner as anything else we just all became this like cowboy figures, and then we started to think about it, and then we were actually agreeing that it's pretty terrible and we should stop doing that because yeah, they're like, I mean, of course it's always nice to reappropriate something and to do something new with it, but I think we were more interested in this whole concept of revenge and what to actually do with this person that we had encountered, and what can we do, how much can we do like something symbolic, how individual solving of problems can do something in the face of bigger structural problems. Like, can there be like a symbolic gesture towards an individual in a problem that is so big? What can revenge actually do? What can rewriting of history do? And like, who does in the end? And how do we deal with the archive? And who are we actually to do that? And then kind of also giving up on it. Like, it is also a story of failure and thinking out loud about that.
Can I ask a question? No, actually not. No, because we're talking about revenge is something that I was thinking about watching your film, and I was thinking about film as revenge, and then I was thinking more, because I don't know if I like revenge so much, but I was thinking about film as restorative justice, because, and the term justice came to me because of the kind of tribunal in your film, you know, like it seems like some kind of female tribunal that is, you know, seeking justice in a very restorative way, you know, like how can cinema can restore the memory or the wounds of, you know, and I wanted to hear your thoughts about revenge and justice, or what kind of justice we're seeking.
Well, yeah, right. No, I'm very good question. Yes, I do have. I have lots of problems, and I might get fried after saying this, so bear with me. This thing of. How do we relate with arts, a work of arts of people that were cancelled? Or do we continue with it or not? Do we stop reading some authors because they did something horrible? Are the works not worth it anymore? I'm not giving answers. These are questions that I have regularly in my life, and then I make things sometimes myself. No, I will never read this person anymore. This is offensive, and I will not do this anymore. So it's the first thing. So this was something that as well is one of the things that I was concerned with in this tribunal of this court of women, as you called. Like, what do the women want to do now if they have the power? How do they want to? Do they keep and then how to explore this issue? We burn the painting, but we burn it for us so that it become invisible. So that now the painting is ours. It's for the eyes of the invisible. So it's a restorative thing in the sense that it becomes a painting that becomes a soul as well. I do have this thing many times when I go to museums that I wish that everyone could close their eyes and only me could watch a painting. It's a very egoistic thing. Yes, it's a very egoistic. I know. I'm sorry, very selfish. But it's like to think, can you please all don't look so that it's mine? Just we have these things sometimes with things. We love them so much that we want us to ourselves. But with this group of women and with paintings and with women artists especially, when you think about how many women artists you have in museums and so on, this goes to another level now. So I think for me this possibility of having this court of women deciding and even themselves saying, but are we now burning paintings? And Joseph Adalbert says, I don't know, I didn't have the Me Too, what the fuck are you talking about? So bringing all of these things and trying to, because they're very serious, and I still don't have answers for these things, but I do have tons of questions, and I keep on having them. So I think using this court of women, there are plants, and there are this, we call this ecofeminist thing, it helps me a lot to see all of my doubts on a film. What I think is like this court is a parade of my doubts. See. I don't know if you want to add something.
And
I've just been thinking about resources, like in the way of like how you want to see the painting alone, like the question of what money is also put in what kind of research and what, like, I don't know if that like in the work of restoring and rewriting history. I recently went to like a seminar on like monuments and stuff, and a lot of politics have this argument that things should be kept to be still visible for everyone, to reflect the time and how it was. My problem with this is often that it's not thinking along the resources that go into like keeping something. Yes. I don't know if this has anything to do with what you said, but like with keeping a monument alive, it also means that this money cannot go into like building other things, or it's just physically taking up space and stuff. And restoration and the privileged position of being actually able to look at an archive, take it apart, and which archives we invest in. I think that's the good thing about Wikipedia again. But still, people need to be paid. No, there's also a lot of like free labor that goes into that.
Before we open up for questions, I wanted, Catarina, in your film there are two sentences of a dialogue that I found very interesting. It says, "Fears know no walls," and then the other plant replies, "No, fears are walls." And I was reminded about your film, The Mechanics of Fluids, Gala, because The Mechanics of Fluids is about incels, like hyper-masculine men that are building up they're building up walls. So they are very misogynist, they're hating women, and sometimes they even go out and do mass shootings. And it strangely connects with the Pope in your film, because what they do on one side is like they're having these echo chambers And this is like they're having this closed societies, and they try to reward each other. Like, okay, do comments when you feel the same shit as me and you feel lonely, then comment, and or they even have like a system of points sometimes with mass shootings and stuff like that. So they try to reward each other within their community in the echo chamber, and then on the other side they go heavily like with their ultra hatred against the common enemy, which are women. And with the Pope, it's the same thing, because he faces the fear of death, and then what he does is like he tried to be rewarded within his echo chamber, so he canonized souls, like making them holy, and then the other reaction is like, okay, and now I have to shoot out against the common enemy again, the women, and then I have this plate, and I decide they are not allowed to enter the convent, but burn in hell. So I found this very interesting that you have this connection of misogynist, ultra masculinity from the Pope to the incels of your film. Maybe you can comment about it before we open up the floor. I don't know.
Yeah, I hadn't made this connection, but yeah, I think one of the problems that scares me the most in our society is how political debate is being more and more weakened, and how we are more and more unable to talk to people that disagree with us, basically. And the debate is so polarized in the sense that, you know, they don't want to listen to us, but also a lot of feminists also don't want to listen to them. So it's a dialogue of deaf people not listening to each other that is probably leading nowhere, and it scares me a lot. And actually I think cinema can be a way of instigating this dialogue, this imaginary dialogue, you know, like maybe not with incels or the Pope, but, you know, to create a space in which different ideas can be shared. Even this, you know, what you said about you don't know, I don't know what I think about this because it's very complex, but I can expose all of the different opinions that exist upon this. Should we cancel or not this painting, or should we cancel or not this painter? And I really believe that cinema is actually a way of sharing, you know, creating a shared space and a common space in which dialogue can work within the film, like inside the film. You can, as a filmmaker, you can create dialogues that are impossible in reality, like the woman with the Pope, you know, this is so powerful. Or like the woman, all these souls talking to each other, and also at the same time in the cinema room, you can also create another dialogue. So to destroy these walls, basically.
No, I just wanted to add to what Gala is saying, that although all of this is fiction, this Pope is not fiction. Gregory XV was a horrible person. I mean, someone told me once, "Why do you make a film to perpetuate this man?" And I was like, "You're completely right. It starts with him." And this man was just horrible. And and I think there's something else. And talking about structures of power, which is the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church really made this misogynistic thing grew up to a point that is we are still facing it today. So, and it is still the biggest institution in the world. So coming from a Catholic background as well myself, I think this is something that it didn't help at all, and we are still facing these problems. So Gregory the 15th was the last pope to burn women on stakes. So it's something very and he made these few months before he died, which shows like how maleficent, how terrible, so and how evil this was. So I think somehow this metaphor of like using this then like erasing it is not an answer as well. Maybe we need to use it, you know, to not forget that this existed, so that we can go to something else. I don't know. Yeah.
Eytan, what do you think?
I just want to add before, I would like to hear the questions also. But just from the point of view of execution, I thought that also that scene with the plants and this discussion, I actually quite enjoyed. We spoke a little bit about this. There is this kind of hypnotic, this music, and also, but you write it as text, what they are saying, and I was really there is kind of an additional kind of intimacy that comes with it. I edit a lot of documentaries, and sometimes that's when I have sometimes the opportunity to do that. And whenever you use text and not the voice, there is you hear it in your mind, the loudness, even it's just almost also a bit like a whisper. So I thought that was very, not just creative, but very, very effective way of doing that. And also the fact that this discussion, as you said, it was kind of these different voices in your mind, and it was not like it was really like sometimes comical. This like the way they were, you could feel that one of the voices were getting angry, and it was not like this abstracted, articulated voices, but like real people kind of discussing, and you could hear their voices in contrast to this kind of spiritual world. And I thought it was very, very engaging, very interesting way of using the sound and text. Yeah.
I'm like doing some weird, I'm trying to include Miel into the conversation. So like Miel is listening, like if you wonder, like applause for Miel. And they like just like wrote me like some funny stuff. Maybe we can just read some 2-3 phrases out of it. Just like some notes like haunting the nuclear family, or a system is what it does. But I think for them about the movie was also important the bigger picture of not focusing on specific events or situation, but to ask the question of what the outcome is of 500 years of conquista and 200 years of independency. For them, like thinking about the cowboy is also thinking about like the self-contained individual of Western, like individual in the Western without moral ambiguity. So it is also really like a kind of the man, the proper man with property, kind of like a obvious like pre capitalist setup. And then they say it's maybe relevant to talk about the dog scene, archiving ourselves with him. Like opposing colonialism and white supremacy would also need to include opposing and stopping those parts of ourselves that are immersed and complicit in white supremacist systems, and presenting that position of not taking more space in artistic or academic discourse, regardless how progressive or woke, since these very systems also tend to further the goals of empire. The modes of living and being that have been under attack by colonial, imperial, and capitalist powers are not really represented or supported by discourse within Western-centric institutions. Thanks. And yeah, like it's just ridiculous to like read these comments out from that are super relevant, are like a position that is like non-European and like not here in the room. And so yeah, that's their contribution.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And is the mic working? Hopefully. Yes. Who has a question? Come on. Well, I'm serving Mexicana and others.
I have a question, if not.
We can drink Mexicana as at once.
Hi. Yeah, it's working. I have a question for Clara. You were kind of talking about it a little bit, that you would do the movie a little bit different. So I was curious about what you would change. Of course, now 2 of your collaborators are not able to respond, but maybe you could talk a little bit about how would you approach this film differently?
I'm sorry if I'm grumpy today. I'm like a bit on PMS. I'm super happy to be here, and I'm kind of sad that I'm like my main mood is a bit sad. But yeah, I mean, I think the answer is pretty simple. Like, don't just make a movie with your own face in it. Like, I am working now more with collectives. I think my main driving force is trying to use some of the possibilities and like that I have to get funds to bring them to Mexico, use them, trying to not do so much my own projects anymore. I think I do also step away a bit like from authorship and just try to immerse myself a bit into collective practices. And the project we are doing now is also a bit more like a script that Mia wrote, so I'm a bit producing at the moment, you know, making coffee, making good vibes or something. Yeah, and I thought taking up less space, I think, is weird while sitting on stage, but I think it's intention.
It's not a question. It's just a try to correct a little bit the Wikipedia picture you painted. I know it's not a documentary, but I have been working voluntarily for the German Wikipedia version. And of course there's deletion, and it's good that people can delete, otherwise it would be a mess and wouldn't even survive. But if you have a good source, a valuable source for the information that was deleted, you can bring it in again, giving the source. And if you don't know how to do it, you can come here to Tempelhofer Ufer every week. They show you, I'm not from here, so my colleagues will do it. They show you how, and it's important that criticism doesn't stop at that point, but that it comes out. This is not just for Wikipedia issue, but any issue. If criticism stops at this point, it will never come to an action, and things won't go, won't become better. Yeah.
I don't want to make like a pure criticism. Like a lot of it is documentary. Like I found things, they disappeared, and then there was like a fight, and like I absolutely support the possibilities. I also found good books, and some of them were also quoted, but it's just a lot of labor, and it's really cool that you do.
It is, and there are just humans there, and they fight. But there are means, you know, to end the fights. It's not an eternal fight on one fact or even non-fact. Okay.
Thanks for the comment. Who else are there?
Yeah, my question is about the facts behind the film. I mean, especially wiki writers. Is there? I mean, you kind of suggested that the Flus Martins may not be real, but there are real figures behind that abstraction. So, is there a reason you're not really like kind of making it very clear which is real, which is fake, and so on behind this whole story of the Flus Martins? I mean, is there a real history behind it? And because the specter of fake news kind of hangs over the film. I mean, there's 2016 and the elections and so on, but also the idea that some of what is on Wikipedia may be conspiracy theories, maybe people just editing it for the heck of it and so on. Is there a reason you kind of blur the historical identity of the Flus Martins? I mean, is there like a real problem with revealing the identity of this family?
I think there's like several families, and there's like books, and I can talk with you about it after the screening. But I think my main reason, and there's like two decisions. One is that I am not so much interested into like the personal story of the one person, more like in the role of the families in general. And if you want, for example, I have this like other output of that movie that is like my thesis or something, where I go like more deeper into like the specific politics. And then, but the movie itself is a movie that focuses on like the story of an individual, and therefore I decided to protect in the end this individual or myself, because the outcomes of this are also like unclear, no? Like we're talking about rich, powerful people, and I'm so it's easier for me to, I don't know if I protect more myself or like that person, but I just decided that it's maybe not the main issue I want to talk about. Did I answer the question? I mean, the reason why I wrote my thesis about it was because I did want to go a bit more into like fact-based, a collection of my research where I can say like, okay, I have like that and that resources, and there you can find them, and there you can like follow my research more on a like a historical level, written from an artistic perspective. But yeah, for the movie, it's it's a play, and therefore, I feel it's not the right place to talk about.
Please. Thanks for the question.
Thanks.
There's a question for Clara. In your film, there's another line. You've already talked about this a little bit, but there's the line that goes something like, in Texas, it's a place where you can imagine both the end of the world and the end of capitalism. I'm wondering if you could talk about that a little more. I understand the Mark Fisher reference, Frederick Jameson, or whatever, but can you talk a little bit more about like how you felt that in that place, like what that means to you, and also maybe what if that's the case, what comes next?
I think that phrase comes more like in a moment to be like used for the narrative of the situation. I think it's not necessarily Texas. I don't think it was shot in Texas, but it's more this kind of general vibe that even the rich is afraid of the Armageddon to come, and thinking about how to save his being or his soul, and like it was more this space of following like a very privileged person's fear. And well, I just passed very quickly through Texas and the States, and yeah, I think it is a bit related to this research of like how to pin down the end of history. Like kind of everyone agrees on that it's like no question anymore that there has not been the end, but where's the end to the moment that people believe where the end is, and is it like visible or invisible structures? Like people were saying like, but already in the 90s you had the Zapatistas. Was this not already a proof for like a resistance to capitalism as a hegemonic structure? But then yeah, like other people are more looking at it like as inside of the dominant Western systems, where was like the first breaks that you could feel. And then people say like, for example, then with 2008 and the financial crash was the first moment where you could feel this crack in capitalism on like an economic level. And then later with 2016 this slow destruction or deconstruction of democracy happening. I kind of want to believe that those are also proofs for the end of capitalism, and also in a certain way to history as we know it, in a sense of, I mean, some people also say with 2020 and COVID crisis, time stopped and stuff. There's just a splitting up of the feeling of time and dimensions and layers happening that is related to the parallel existence of perceptions of reality that get like duplicated through the web.
Thank you. And there's another one over here. Please.
Yeah, hi. I have a question for both Clara and Catarina. Yeah, sorry. So I wanted to know more about the storytelling aspects of both the films, because I felt that there was a very strong element of speculative fiction in both the films, and that is a connective element, because I mean there are fictional and also real people referenced in both the films. In Clara's film, we probably don't know who the real people are, but anyway, and also I want to know about your influences and relationship with speculative fiction. For instance, Clara's film reminded me very strongly of Roberto Bolaño because it's situated in Mexico, so I was thinking of 2666 and also Amulet, where there is this woman who refers to herself as the mother of Mexican poetry, and she's stuck in a toilet during a real event when the military, I'm forgetting the event, but it was, I think the military stormed a university and she finds herself in a toilet, and then she she imagines several events from the future and the past, and so I was constantly thinking of that. And Catarina's film also reminded me of, I love your previous film, that I've seen that several times, and it reminds me of the works of Portuguese filmmakers that I really like and who also engages with speculative fiction, like Manuel Oliveira or Rita Azevedo Gomes, who's a friend, and I really love her films. And so I would love to know more about that, the speculative fiction aspect of both the films and also your influences. I should not say influences, but your relationship with writers or filmmakers who engages with speculative fiction. Yeah. And also, I feel that, sorry. Yeah. Something like, in a post-truth era, like speculative fiction has really radical revolutionary possibilities, which was really well articulated in both the films. So, yeah, I would love to know from both of you. Yeah, thank you.
No.
Thank you for the question. You have a microphone.
Well, thank you for the question. Well, I think I'm very privileged in the sense that there are very amazing filmmakers in Portugal that I was very privileged to watch their films. So for sure, they become part of a grammar somehow. For sure, Rita Azevedo Gomes, Manuel Oliveira, we can't run away from them in a good way. So I think what I think they have, and what I think not just them, I could go and speak about other filmmakers which are not Portuguese as well. But what I think that there is something that for me is quite, and because I don't come from a cinema background, I come from a fine arts background. So what I really relate with them is this staged thing, this possibility of staging things. And when you come from fine arts, I didn't study painting because I'm the person that draws the worst in the world, but I wish I could have been a painter. But what I think is very beautiful in the idea of painting is that you try to bring, especially the old masters will try to bring reality to a canvas, which is just a incredibly stupid idea. You can't do that, but they believed they could. So and I think I believe I can, in a way that I can't control anything. We can't control life. We have this thing that we think we can't control, but then in films I have this. I can control it, and I think somehow what Rita Azevedo Gomes, Manuel Oliveira have is. These stage things where we can, at least here we can control life. And we can imagine what if. So the what if effect becomes extremely important. Of course I know history wasn't like that, of course, but what if it was? Who's telling that it wasn't? I know that this can be some sort of way of populism and so on, who use actually the same sort of things that I'm saying, but what I'm saying is that cinema really allows us, I believe, somehow, to speculate about these other possibilities of not recounting but telling a story. So I don't know if there's something regenerative about it. For sure, there's something of hypotheses about it. And I think that brings hope. And in the end, I think somehow I believe that cinema and art, maybe let's speak about art, there's something very hopeful about art. Otherwise, why would we do it? Thank you for your question.
I feel like my main references are like partially movies, but I think I comparatively watch little movies. But I do in Mexico we built up this like little living room university where we invite a lot of writers like and other artists to exchange. So it's like very community based. Endeavor, like that's how also it started with like Megan writing text and this then like being the idea for a movie and kind of like cross like feeding each other. And Miel's brother actually came up with a genre of the Oxo realism, which is based on Oxo. It's this like corner store that exists all over Mexico, and it's like a place where people from many classes meet in the evening when they want to come to buy late night things. And so yeah, like I think so there's like definitely a reference to Oxo realism in the project.
Okay, we take one more question and then we finish.
Hello, thanks so much for the films. I really enjoyed them all. I'm really sorry this is another question for Clara. Sorry about that. One thing I really appreciate in films, and I thought both of your films had this, was really cool dialogue. And what's particularly special about your film, Clara, was that the dialogue felt super real. Even though it was dubbed and done in different languages, people were interrupting each other, you know, people were actively listening, there was lots of And I really enjoy seeing that, because that's just how we actually speak. In lots of films you watch, it's scripted, and you can see that. So I was wondering if you'd like to take a moment or tell a funny story about this dubbing process, and what made you go down that path. Why does it sound like that? And yeah, thanks again for the films. Really enjoyed them.
Thank you. Yeah, true. Actually, we did start having conversation about certain topics and started sometimes recording them, or sometimes started to type in the same document in a kind of conversation. And I think that's how a bit like kept some things kept a more conversational style. But then in the end, it is like all individually recorded, and sometimes hearing the other person. And I did my recordings partially myself with like a blanket over my head in Berlin in my room. That's why my sound is sometimes shittier, because I'm the least knowledgeable about sound recording. But yeah, I do like practices that don't just come from the desk, but like come out of a conversation, then maybe gets transcribed again, then mixed up again, and as like a way of script writing. And that's also what we did in that process.
Okay, thank you very much for being here and taking part in the conversation. And yeah, I mean, now it's over. So thank you for being here, and we see each other outside.
This is the end of the Critics Week now.
Woohoo!